What's going on, guys? Welcome to week 7 of my college football picks. Last week I said Josh would be joining me, but he's actually at work right now and he lives in Hawaii currently, so it may be a little difficult. So I'm not going to say it's a for sure thing every week, but he's definitely going to be part of the show when he can. So I'm just going to be in this one by myself this week. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the upset of the week last week in college football, which was number 3, Florida State losing to NC State. And honestly, with the games we had last weekend, to me, that was the most exciting game of the week. It was definitely a shocker. It shocked everybody in the nation. NC State converted on fourth down just so many times, like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game. And when they finally got the game winning touchdown, it was on fourth down. After that game, Florida State fell all the way to number 12. And honestly, I believe that that was the end of their possible BCS championship run because if you take a look at their schedule, they just don't have the strength of schedule to get back up in the ranks and play for a championship unless somehow they beat an undefeated Florida Gators team, which might get them back in the talks. But I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. All right, so now jumping into the games this week. Number 1, Alabama travels to Missouri. This is a matchup that I've never seen before in my life, and I'm actually excited about it because I always like to see Alabama play a new team that I've never watched before face Alabama. So I'm definitely going to be excited for this one. I've been waiting for it since I heard Missouri was joining the SEC. Of course, you guys know by now that Alabama lost Dee Milner and DeAndre White for the season. They both have to have surgery. And also, Missouri's quarterback James Franklin suffered a knee injury, and he's not going to play in this game. But you got to look at how Missouri kept up with Georgia in their game earlier this season. And it actually shocked me, really, because Missouri moving to the SEC, they've never been in that kind of environment before. And you just kind of question will they be able to keep up with the SEC, and they proved it in the Georgia game that they can, but they eventually got tired and Georgia ran all over them. So I'm taking Alabama in this game and roll tide. The next game is number 17 Stanford at number 7 Notre Dame. To be honest with you guys, the only few looks I've had at this Stanford Cardinal team this year was when they beat USC for the fourth straight year. I was in Atlantic City, New Jersey, in a casino when that game was being played, and I decided to quit gambling and go watch it. And I was actually excited, and it was a pretty nice game there at the end. And if you flip sides to Notre Dame, being kind of honest with you guys, I haven't seen them play hardly at all. Maybe like 3 or 4 plays at most, flipping channels. But I do know that nobody has scored over 17 points on them, and they've played 3 straight games in a row where nobody has even scored a touchdown. So that's pretty good because this Notre Dame team is looking to go places. Typically, they don't have as good a team as they do this year, so it's exciting to see where they're going to go. I think I'm going to take Notre Dame in this game just because they're having such a breakout season. And I know Lou Holtz is happy because his 2 teams can possibly play for a national championship. So we'll just have to see about that down the line. The next game I have is number 3, South Carolina, at number 9, LSU. I really thought about making this my game of the week in the picks this week, but with LSU's sloppy performance against a very talented Florida Gators team, I decided to change my decision. Some of you may question, was it a sloppy performance by LSU, or is that just how they're playing this year? I honestly don't know. We'll just have to see what happens this weekend. LSU had some players going down on the offensive line. They had 4 suspended for the year already earlier this year, and that's because they didn't have the grades to play, which is academically ineligible, so they're sitting out. And the presence of their former leader and Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, is not out there. So this defensive LSU team is just not where they need to be, in the offensive line is just going through a lot, and the commentator Gary Danielson, he calls SEC games. He keeps bringing up the Honey Badger just about in every single game they play. So I'm sure we're going to see him back on the LSU team next year. Um, Now, if I turn things and look at South Carolina, this team is a great team. I can't say nothing bad about them. They're definitely one of the big BCS teams this year that's got a possible chance to play for a national championship. I'm picking South Carolina to win this game. I think it's going to be really, really good. And I picked them to win last week against Georgia, but I did not know that it was going to be that dominant of a victory. They have an absolute beast in defensive end, Clowney, which was almost coming to Alabama, and it would have been amazing to get him. He's just straight up dominating out there, and they're actually trying to get him in the Heisman talk, so it's going to be cool to see how that goes down. And if South Carolina wins out, and if Alabama wins out, it looks like they could be clashing in Atlanta in the SEC championship at the end of the year. And if that happens, I think it could honestly have a bigger build up than the Alabama and LSU game one that happened last year. So yeah, I'm taking South Carolina in this game. After this game is over, they have a big showdown with the Florida Gators, so I'm definitely going to be covering that one too. But yeah, guys, South Carolina Gamecocks win this game, and now it's on to game of the week. Number 15 Texas at number 13 Oklahoma. I wasn't too sure about how good or how bad this Texas team was before the West Virginia game last week, and then I actually turned it on and started watching it. I watched it for a good long time because Georgia just wasn't doing anything against South Carolina, so I just turned to some other games before the NC State and Florida State game. So I give this one a look, and it was actually pretty good. Like I said, it was a good game to me, and Texas barely did lose, but they definitely proved that they have one of the better teams in college football this year, and they're definitely a top 10 team if you ask me. Oklahoma always seems to be one of the teams in college football that can be a legit contender for a BCS championship, but then they stumble somewhere in the season and they lose a game that they should win. They've already done that this year, but really you could say the same about the Virginia Tech Hokies. I realized Oklahoma lost to a very good Kansas State team a few weeks ago, but they really should have won that one. I think Texas goes to Oklahoma and does work this weekend and gets that Big 12 matchup victory. So yeah, guys, that wraps up this week of college football picks, week 7. And if you like what you see, leave it in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. Check out the NFL picks. Check out the Dallas Cowboys game preview by Chase. And there's just going to be all kinds of news and stuff coming to this channel in the NFL and other things. So you can check back for that, guys. And until next week, roll tide.